Hello guys, Termex. Wait, that's not me anymore. Hello guys, Termex here, back with another Throne of Liberty video with my new character that I spent like an hour and a half customizing because I got that free character exchange token from the battle pass. So that's pretty cool. But today we're going to be talking about the traits that you are going to want to chase for the Crossbow Dagger build. Now really quick, I'm going to make a quick PSA. There's a difference between traits and then roles that are on your gear. For example, if we go over into my gear right now, if we look at this cape, you'd see how the cape has ranged evasion, magic evasion, and weaken resistance. Those three stats are tied to the item name itself, so the actual item that you see is always going to roll with that. Now for the traits, that is what is below all that. See where it says trait, and then you have three different ones that you unlock or consume. Now that whole system is just annoying within itself, but the TLDR for the trait system is when you go over into your inventory and you go to equipment enchanting, you need to do traits. Let's say you have an item here and you want to unlock another trait. Unlock trait, you could pick one of these traits to add onto the weapon at the cost of trait unlock stones. So let's say I get max health and I put it on my bow. Not that you would want to. If you find any other crossbows in the game that roll with max health on their trait slot, which is completely RNG, you could farm the same gear over and over and hope the different traits roll, you would consume it into this at a designated chance. So if I got a purple, it would be a guaranteed upgrade. And as you can see, there's 4 bars, so each trait could go up 4 tiers. And there is a pity system, because if you get a bunch of blues with humanoid bonus damage, for example, there's a 10% chance it will work. Now the blessing system is a pity system, so if you have, let's say, 7 blues that have humanoid bonus damage and all of those fail, eventually that blessing will fill up to 100% and then upgrade the tier of the item. Now, to my knowledge, if you get max out traits on an item and a new item comes out that's a better tier, like legendary, I'm pretty sure you cannot transfer any of the traits over to the legendary, so just know that I don't believe it is a long-term thing, and I do believe it's a constant grind to maintain the upkeep. If you guys are wondering if you have the items and you don't have the traits here, let's say I find a weapon with the humanoid damage I need, like this. In order to actually get it, you have to click the item and then click trait extraction. As you can see, it turns into an extraction, and then it has the actual stats. It says this equipment is used for blah blah blah. But now when you have that extract, it would pop up on the other screen for critical hit chance if you had any other tomes that already rolled with it, or if you added with it. It's a complicated system. I think it's a stupid system, but I hope I explain that better than most people have. That's why these trait extraction stones are so damn important, because the only way to get them is by doing certain events, or if you do your contracts every day, you could just spam them all into your contract, which is something I like to do. Like right now I'm going to do that. I'm just going to spend 800, get my weekly, and I still have a few left. Something I recommend always doing. And while you're here, just get these, because they will help you in the long run as well. But now that you know how traits work, what traits are, at least I hope you do. If you want a more in-depth video, let me know in the comments. What traits are best for the Crossbow Dagger build? Well, now I'm going to take you guys over to my Google Chrome. Let me press this in OBS, and here we are. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys so you can see what we're working with. This is my build guide that I have in the link in the description down below, and I made a whole video on this. And these are going to be the traits that I find the most important in the game that you want to go for each individual piece. You could look in this website yourself, but I want to make a trait video, let you guys know my thoughts and why I am choosing this. We have the pool on each one of these, so as we scroll through these, you'll see the pool of available traits on each item, and you could also make your own decision based on what you think, but these are going to be my decisions. Now, this coat has actually changed from that coat over into the tapestry veil, because the tapestry veil is something that could roll with max health, which is something I'm a big fan of, plus it's for PvP, but you could choose between the devotion or the tapestry based on what you're doing. But first of all, with the dagger, I went with max mana, hit chance, and critical hit chance. I think hit chance is one of the most important things in this game, especially for the Crossbow Dagger build, because if you have all this high burst DPS and high burst damage that you can't hit, you're kind of useless, and that's the reason why this build has 50 perception as well, because we do get that hit chance from 30, and if you want to go up to 60 for even more hit chance, you could always sacrifice some of your strength damage reduction to be a little bit squishier, or you could sacrifice your dexterity movement speed to get even higher hit chance based on the situation. Now the crossbow is pretty easy. We have hit chance, critical hit chance, and attack speed increase. Max mana we don't really need. Heavy attack chance we definitely don't need. And undead bonus damage, come on, that's a little bit laughable. Even if you're doing a PvE only, you'd much rather have the hit chance for PvP, critical hit chance for everything, everything and attack speed for everything. Now for the mask, I recommend going with double evasion, so range and magic evasion, which will help with your tankiness. And the reason really quick why I say with this build you want to build for actual evasion is we don't have a huge health pool to begin with. We don't have a lot of resistances to begin with. We have a lot of dagger passives that help with evasion as well. So if we stack a bunch of evasion on our gear, it doesn't matter how much resistance we have if the thing that's attacking us never even hit us to begin with. So having evasion on this build is absolutely perfect. And for the third one on the mask, I went with cooldown speed to get all of our abilities back quicker. For the cloak, I went with max health for our survivability, skill damage resistance for more survivability, and debuff duration -6%. Now, max health is kind of self-explanatory. We live longer. Skill damage resistance, we take less damage from people's skills, not their heavy attacks or auto attacks. But debuff duration, this is huge, especially with the greatsword and sword builds that are out there that are very annoying. You know those builds where you get stun locked for 8.5 seconds and you can't really do anything but suck on your thumb? Yeah, those builds suck, and this is probably one of the best and only ways to counter getting out of that CC sooner, so you can get out of there and basically kick their ass, because without that CC, that build is not really that good. For the tunic, we went with the same evasion with the magic and ranged evasion, which is very important in my opinion, and we went with max health. Now, you could trade out the max health for something like buff duration if you wanted your buffs to last a little bit longer, but I think the 600 health is plenty better than the actual buff duration itself. For the gloves, we actually went with something a little bit different here. We went with the same evasion. Once again, I already explained the importance of it, but max mana on our gloves, just because I do want our mana pool to be a little bit bigger without speccing into much wisdom. Even though we have 18, because some of our gear has wisdom by default, I still don't think speccing into wisdom is worth it at any point after level 50, because once you hit level 50 and you're actually getting your gear, you're getting your build going, wisdom is just kind of useless. You don't need cooldown speed, and it takes way too much of an investment to get 5% cooldown speed, so not worth it in my humbled opinion. For the pants, once again, ranged melee evasion with maximum mana, self-explanatory as to why we're doing that. Now for the boots, we actually went with magic in melee evasion with movement speed. Movement speed is just overall amazing with dexterity and the Crossbow Dagger build. We have so many pieces of gear, so many skills that give us movement speed that we basically turned into Sonic the Hedgehog. And the only thing I'd say here, if you are pretty confident in your melee abilities, you could actually replace melee evasion on your boots with the maximum health. Self-explanatory as to why. I'm kind of in a toss-up right now on which one I'm going to pick. I am waiting based on what my server's meta is, because every server is different. You're going to have majority melee, majority ranged based on your server. And if I don't have a lot of melees on my server, I'm probably just going to go with max health. And that's probably the safer bet if you don't want to really wait for your server to do the next move and see how you can counter certain guilds. For the necklace, we have maximum health, skill damage boost, and buff duration. Buff duration is good as always, max health for survivability, but skill damage boost is going to give us a very nice DPS increase. And the only thing I would change here, if you really wanted, is change buff duration for your stun or bind chance, because if you're using dagger, your bind chance getting increased is going to be very helpful for that one skill. You know what I'm talking about, where you dash to them and you do the chains, it goes I probably explained that really bad, but that skill, if you want to proc it more often, you could trade buff duration for bind and it wouldn't really be that much of a hindrance. For our bracers, we went with max health, skill damage, resistance for tankiness, and then another stack of debuff duration. Now we have 3 stacks of debuff duration, giving us -18% on the debuffs, so that's honestly really, really good. For our first ring, we have max health once again. You're probably seeing a pattern. A lot of our health is coming from gear, and that's going to be a lot of our survivability. So if you feel squishy with this build up until this point, it's because you are forgetting about traits. Traits are probably the second most important thing in this game next to the gear itself. So everybody in my comments that's like, dude, I love this build, it does so much damage, but I'm so damn squishy. It's a grind. It's a commitment. It's a long wait. But once you get all this gear and all these traits with the health needed, and you're sitting with 14, 13,000 health, and you're evading a bunch of projectiles, this build is going to feel so much better. Trust me, the juice is worth the squeeze if you stick with this build long term. The other ring, once again, max health, buff duration, and skill damage boost for more damage and survivability. And finally, our belt with max mana, skill damage resistance, and another stack of debuff duration, giving us 24% less on our debuff duration, which is absolutely bonkers. But yes, those are the traits I would choose for every single gear item. And for people wondering, if you're using a different piece of gear, what if my gear doesn't have those traits? Well, the fun thing is, for example, if we go over to this cape, we see max health, regen, resistance, skill damage, and then debuff, right? I would say line up with what I have the best you can. And if the item that you're farming for or you personally want to build towards doesn't have a role, for example, if my cape has max health, skill resistance and debuff, and you guys are running, let's say, the bile-drenched veil, but you're like, Termix, I don't have max health, what do I get? Well, out of the 4 that you can choose from, pick one that suits your build the most. Do you find that you take a lot of weaken procs? Do you find you're always low on mana? Or do you feel like you don't have enough mana to do your combo, and you can make your choice as it varies? But that is the trait chase, as I like to say. Those are the traits I would go for on every single gear item, or the gear items I'm going for. As you can see, based on my build in the gear, my loot pool for the different traits is very synergized because I have a bunch of maximum health items, making me more tanky when some items don't even have that option. So make sure you're focusing on that when you're making very important gear decisions with your build in Throne and Liberty. But that's the video, guys. If you did enjoy, please hit the like button down below, as it does spread out my content to more people in the Throne and Liberty community. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on another video from me, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you all later.